Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your...
Welcome back. Hold on one second. Test. I did this before the show. Okay. Welcome back to a technologically belabored podcast called Superhuman Radio. We have a great show for you today. So we're going to be talking about two very important things. We're going to talk about the effects of weed, pot, cannabis, on the oral microbiome and what it causes, perhaps downstream, from changing the microbiome. And then later in the show, we're going to be talking about nanotechnology that I thought was BS, but it works. And that is a pain-relieving patch. And it doesn't use drugs or chemicals. So it's going to be fascinating, I promise you. Before we get started, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods, makers of both the tasty pastry and the sweet roll. The sweet roll is designed for people who miss the delicious Cinnabon at the airport or at the local mall. But we don't eat them because they're garbage, way too much in the way of wheat flour and sugar. But Legendary Foods has come up with the sweet roll. One of them is in cinnamon in honor of the Cinnabon, one in chocolate and one in wild berry. You will think you're eating junk. You will feel guilty for eating it. But here's the beauty of it. 20 grams of high-quality dairy protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 5 net carbs. And you can indulge in them guilt-free. Even give them to your children. They will love them. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10. Buy a lot. They don't last long, especially if you have children in the house. So check them out. And now I'm going to bring my guest on. Just bear with me 1 second. Here we go. Welcome to the show, Dr. Wei Jiang. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm going to have to, I think it's the microphone. I have 3 more. I just have to go look for them. So this is a fascinating discussion. Hold on just 1 second. I'm sorry. I have to close the door. There's some noise in the hall. This is why no one wants to tape their podcast live, just for the record. I think I'm the only live podcast that does not do any post-production editing. So you published a study recently from your lab looking at the effects of cannabis on the oral microbiome. Why don't you talk about your lab? You're in South Carolina, correct?
Yes.
What university?
Medical University of South Carolina.
Okay.
So we have a addiction center here. We try to help people, with drug use disorder here.
Okay. Why this study? What study preceded this that you were interested in looking at the effects of the oral microbiome from smoking pot?
So that's actually is a very unexpected story. So in 2018, I traveled to Amsterdam. And there, people smoke marijuana, even on the street. So I went on a boat circulating the city, and at that time I didn't realize everyone smoked marijuana on the boat except me. So, but it's amazing experience. So I I have the opportunity closely communicate with marijuana smokers, and I realized at that time, when they smoke marijuana, their mouth is the place affected most by marijuana smoking, because we at that time we study like a gut microbiome or blood microbiome in marijuana. But however, during that experience, it's changed my mind. So I was inspired by those marijuana smokers, and then after I was back, and we collect saliva samples from our addiction center. So I have to say, all the samples we collect is from marijuana use disorders. So now if you don't have disorder, then it may not be accounted. It's maybe different story.
This is fascinating because when I was a young man, it was the seeds. When we used to buy marijuana on the street, it wasn't the refined, highly grown, sophisticated marijuana that we see today in dispensaries. It usually came in a little yellow bag. We called it a nickel bag. You opened it up, and it had as many seeds and twigs as it did the leaf. And the seeds used to make the odor. They would cook, and if you rolled a joint or you put it in a pipe, you could see the seeds, the moisture that was in them. They would puff out, And someone once told me, well, that's where the smell of marijuana comes from. But now that's obviously not true. But I wonder if including the seeds in the marijuana being smoked changes any of this at all.
That's a great question. I don't know that.
Okay.
But that's ongoing study. So we try to give different components from marijuana plant, like THC or CBD, and see which component changes the microbiome.
So let's talk about the microbiome. The microbiome that is uninfluenced by smoking marijuana, it has some. Is it Saccharomyces that is the one that's being inhibited? Boulardii? No. Talk about the inhibition of certain microbes versus the propagation of other microbes when you smoke marijuana.
Okay, so we see several bacteria. It's not only one, it's a bunch of bacteria actually changes by marijuana smoking. However, we also compare cocaine users, not IV users, and also tobacco smokers, because
Right.
we want to know whether smoking itself can, have the similar change of, oral microbiome, and which is the specific to marijuana smokers. So we see there's a bunch like Staphylococcus also increased, and the Neisseria decreased by smoking. So no matter you use cocaine or use tobacco smoking, you have similar changes. And also marijuana smoker have the similar changes. However, the bacterium Actomycin mari is specific to marijuana smoker. So the longer exposure to marijuana, the more growth of this specific bacteria.
Now, smoke is basically particulate matter, right? When you burn something, it breaks down into the smallest possible pieces, and it floats. And when you have a lot of it, we call it smoke. Is the particulate matter insulting the microbes that are changing? The reason I ask is if you put a filter on marijuana, would we see a change in the population of the oral microbiome?
That's a great question. We don't know that.
Okay, there's another study for you.
A lot, actually.
Yeah. I've been doing this for 17 years, and so many of the questions I've been told by authors, that would be a good study. And I say, well, just put my name in the line, with the authors of the study. Just give me a name drop. That's all. But anyway, now let's talk about what changes these bad microbes produce in the brain, for instance, right? We associate smoking weed with memory problems. It looks like from your study, the memory problems are originating by the change in the microbiome.
Yes. So, so the brain changes majorly we see is they have amyloid deposition, the bad one, the key amyloid 42, and also we see myeloid cell infiltration. Myeloid cell infiltration is linked to long-term memory decline. However, in the B6 mice, we didn't see memory decline yet after we given the bacteria for 6 months. So, it's a long-term chronic effect.
So it means that you have to smoke weed for a long time to actually see what we expect to see.
Yes, exactly. And also maybe if you have certain situation, for example, when we gave HIV animal model, we only use 2 months to see the memory decline. So if you have certain disease situation, which probably will be more susceptible to this bacteria-induced pathology.
Right. We know that tobacco smoking, I had Dr. Dale Bredesen on the show a couple times, and he pioneered some great studies in effective therapeutic approaches to correcting, we can't say cure, the FDA won't say, but correcting Alzheimer's disease. And he even has a New York Times bestseller book that's the culmination of his studies called The End of Alzheimer's or End to Alzheimer's. And we talked about the different things that cause Alzheimer's disease. There's a lot of things that can trigger Alzheimer's disease besides genetic markers, but cigarette smoking is one of them that speeds the Alzheimer's along. So did you find that the tobacco smoke made these changes that you saw in the marijuana smoke?
We also screen tobacco smokers. The reason I didn't further study, screening which one is, in China, we have tons of people, they smoke tobaccos.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think tobacco smoking results in brain issue, because I saw that a lot. My brother, my father, they all smoke tobaccos many years. There's
Right.
no any brain issue. But however, I talked to our physicians, in the addiction center, and everyone told me marijuana smokers have a lot of brain issue. Although right now people try to, they tend to say there's a beneficial effect of brain function. It maybe depends on the components of marijuana, but if you smoke the whole marijuana, I don't believe there's a beneficial effect.
So and the irony is that humans indulge in lots of things that aren't good for them, but someone will write a study saying it's good for them. And there's a marketplace for those kind of studies. And the only people who believe them, they're just looking for confirmation bias because they don't want to stop drinking alcohol. They don't want to stop smoking cigarettes. And they go, oh, see, it's okay. They said so. So you have to be a critical thinker and you have to tease those things out. I used to have a saying, if I dipped a bullet in vitamin C and I shot you with it, would you agree that the damage I'm doing far outweighs the benefits of vitamin C?
Yes,
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so there's also an interesting phenomenon that I read in a study about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, that where they took elderly people in their 60s and 70s and they fed them raw cannabis leaves, and they saw quite the opposite. That their memories got marginally better, but did not get worse. Talk about decarboxylation, and could the changes be a result of decarboxylation? To where you can't get high from weed unless you heat it.
But when you smoke tobacco, you have the similar situation.
Right.
So that's why I personally, I think that may not play a big role.
Okay.
But it's hard to say. There's a lot of confounders may mediate this effect.
Right. Now, I shared with you my personal experience. I started smoking marijuana at 14 years old in high school. I smoked it all through my early 20s. I gave it up when I was running my first business and then continued to abstain when I had young children. But as soon as I went through my divorce in my early 50s, I took it up again. I figured, oh, I'm a young man again. I'm going to go party and do all this fun stuff. And it didn't affect my memory. But recently, I started to adopt using both Delta 9 and Delta 8 oral edibles. And I saw a dramatic change in memory. And I had to stop because I couldn't do the show. I couldn't remember anything. So let's talk about the edibles. Is it possible that the edibles, because you chew them, they're already decarboxylated because they take that almost syrupy THC resin and they incorporate it into the edibles. Could the edibles be causing this problem as well?
I cannot answer the question, but I think THC probably play a big role. But you are right. It's maybe there's some synergistic effect.
And that would fit nicely in the discussion that it's not the heated leaves that are causing the problem, because it would do it with tobacco as well. So there has to be something intrinsic in the leaf once decarboxylated, whether you eat it or you smoke it. That's my thinking.
That's a great question. We can study that further.
Yeah, that because you have to, because a very, very large number of people are using marijuana today who don't want to smoke it because they don't want to damage their lungs. So they're doing edibles, and they're doing very large doses. And edibles are interesting because they seem to have a longer effect, a slower effect. They take longer to hit you. But what I learned was if you just let them melt in your mouth, they hit you very fast.
Okay.
So, but I think edibles are becoming a much preferred way of consuming marijuana today.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So we may need to study that.
I think so.
It's important to know that. Yes.
So explain how the study worked. Once you identified the changes in the microbiome that were happening in humans, you then mimic that effect by giving the rodents these particular chemicals, right, to affect the microbiome.
Right. So after we screening, like increased or decreased microbiome, because human study only show correlation. It's not causality. So we need to use animal to verify the effect, because it's possible because you have marijuana smoking, which, the consequence is allow bacteria to colonize, but not due to bacteria induce the brain dysfunction. So that's why we just gave the mice those bacteria we identified and see what happened in their brain function without marijuana.
And you did see the same changes, but it took longer, you're saying, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's 6 months, at least 6 months.
So here's a fascinating, Craig Hollander says THC is estrogenic, but CBD is not. And estrogen and hormones interplay with microbes. We know that the microbiome of women going through menopause changes. And we also know men on HRT or large doses of testosterone, they develop a more testosterone-driven microbiome. We know protein peptides like oxytocin and others, they correlate with, oxytocin correlates with L. reuteri, a particular microbe in the gut. L. reuteri shows better aging in rodents, at least in rats. And so what we learned from the rat studies is when they started to give the rodents oxytocin, the population of L. reuteri increased. When they gave L. reuteri to the rodents by itself, the population didn't sustain unless it was accompanied with an elevation of oxytocin. So the reason I'm saying this is Could the fact that THC being estrogenic and probably tobacco isn't, could that play a role in influencing the changes of the microbiome in the mouth?
That's a great question. It's possible. So you mean that there's a synergy again? Synergy.
Yeah.
That's
We
very possible. Mm-hmm.
we know that hormones drive population diversity in the microbiome. They help sustain certain microbes and they help certain microbes die off. So if you're putting an estrogenic compound in your mouth, that would influence the microbiome in the mouth as well.
So we had some hormone study previously, and progesterone is mainly anti-inflammatory,
Mm-hmm.
and estrogen is just the opposite. So it may, like, progesterone inhibit pro-inflammatory bacteria strains. That's possible. But that's a great question, like whether there is a gender difference in the cannabis smoker induced.
Wow,
effect.
and you did you look at gender differentiation? That would have been great.
Question. I hope we can do all of them.
I know.
The reason is that in our addiction center, the most cannabis smokers are men, not women.
Interesting.
I don't know there's a hormone effect on that, but that's a great question.
What about the presence of amyloid? And we hear a lot about amyloid in Alzheimer's disease. We also know that there is an increase in amyloidosis in the population over the past, the past 20 years, and it's being blamed on a specific herbicide called Roundup or glyphosate. Glyphosate is a synthetic form of glycine. It gets incorporated into tissue, but the body can't get it out because it's not glycine. It's this synthetic form. And so the buildup of this synthetic glycine leads to a phenomenon called amyloidation. And I actually did my first show about that probably close to 9 years ago, where they showed amyloidosis of the heart and amyloidosis of the kidneys. And there was no reason for it. It was idiopathic. And then when they started to look at the tissue, they realized the glycine wasn't normal glycine. And then they looked at it again and they said, it looks just like what's in glyphosate. So we have a couple things acting on amyloid. It would be fascinating to find out if people who eat organic food tend to have less of the situation from smoking weed. And also, is weed organic? Are they spraying it?
So that's, food is definitely very important, because we have another study in HIV population. So there's a good outcome patients, bad outcome patients, and the good outcome patients definitely because they have more beneficial bacterium. One is the most important one is from blueberry. So and we also do structural analysis and definitely know the mechanism, because those bacteria, they do not induce inflammation. So think about long term, if you have bad bacteria colonization and they continually to stimulate your cells to produce inflammation, then you have risk for almost a lot of different chronic disease. And if you have the disease, you will have faster progression than other people.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, I've got lots more questions. My little brain is working now. We're talking about amyloidosis. You try saying it. It's hard for me to say. And another thought just came to me. So we're going to do this. We're going to take one quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with more of Superhuman Radio. Stay with us. Merrick Health is a premium telehealth platform that connects customers with partnered providers from the comfort of your home. Merrick provides concierge service with your very own patient care provider as your health advocate. You'll go over all your needs and goals, from improving sexual function, hair loss prevention, increased muscle, fat loss, and overall improved performance. Prescribed treatment options can be ordered and shipped directly to you if you meet the requirements, all from the comfort of your home. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Merrick Health. That's MAREKHEALTH, and order your comprehensives and get 10% off with code SHR. Don't forget to add the lab analysis to have results reviewed with potential over-the-counter supplements or treatment recommendations. That's shrnetwork.biz/Merrick Health and use code SHR at checkout. Or order your own desired labs with code SHR and get 10% off your first lab order. Great sleep upgrades you on virtually every level: body fat, muscle mass, mood, brain function, and countless other ways. But taking melatonin alone isn't the answer. Thanks to a brand new sleep formula developed by my friends at Bioptimizers, you can experience the best night's sleep ever. Sleep Breakthrough is a delicious sleep drink that supports your natural melatonin production and relaxation without creating a dependency, so you can have the best night's sleep on demand. It targets 5 different sleep pathways to give you the best sleep ever. And best of all, you'll wake up feeling rested and rejuvenated so that you can have the best day possible. For an exclusive offer for my listeners, go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR and use the code SHR10 for 10% off. Plus, you can unlock special gifts with the value of at least $20. This is a limited time offer, so go to sleepbreakthrough.com/SHR right now. There are lots of concerns about food supply today. That's why you need White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures will deliver food right to your doorstep. You don't even have to go out and be disappointed by shopping in grocery stores. The finest beef, pork, lamb, duck, and more can be found at White Oak Pastures. And now they even have seafood. And best of all, White Oak Pastures has a negative carbon footprint, which means that you don't have to feel guilty for eating your ribeye. Go to shrnetwork.biz/White Oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 15% off. Hey, this is Carl Lenore. I am the inventor of GunLeash. Over 500,000 handguns are lost in the United States every year. If you carry a gun like I do, you are 300 times more likely to lose your gun. And 15% of those guns will end up in criminals' hands and used in the commission of a crime. GunLeash solves that problem. GunLeash is a patented, no-tracking proximity device the size of a postage stamp. It will alert you as soon as your gun is outside of your range, so you can never leave your gun behind. To learn more and to be notified when GunLeash is available at the end of January, go to gunleash.com and get on our mailing list. GunLeash. Never lose your gun, never leave your gun.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Welcome back. I'm so happy my microphone's still working. Saliva, we're talking today with Dr. Jiang, and we're talking about the effects of cannabis, smoked weed right now, on the oral microbiome and what those changes look like they're capable of doing, which it seems like, and I just want to summarize this, it seems like the memory changes are driven by the changes in the microbiome, which means that the microbiome is now making chemicals. We know that microbiome eats and poops, and the things that it poops are either good for you or bad for you. I know there's companies now making postbiotic supplements, which are basically circumventing the microbes doing it and just putting these things in capsules and selling them. We don't even know if that stuff works, but that doesn't stop them from selling it. With that being said, saliva is a natural filtrate of blood. We know that. And it's bidirectional. So what we see in our saliva is in our plasma, and what we see in our what originates in the mouth also is in our plasma, just the way that what's in the plasma originates in the saliva. Could it be that what these microbes are producing are not healthy for us, and they're being absorbed into the saliva and into the body? And what does dental care have to do with this? You know, if you start having deep pockets and horrible gum disease, are you even more susceptible to the effects of smoking weed?
That's definitely great questions. That's always the question I am thinking. when we look at previous clinical report, and we know this actomycin bacteria is enriched in patients with periodontitis. And the patients with periodontitis have a higher prevalence of Alzheimer's disease. So that's oral health definitely is a risk factor for memory decline. So that's raised the question, oral hygiene, oral health is super, super important.
Right. It's all part of this system, it's all part of the system.
That's that's also a great question. Right now, we don't know yet, like which chemical from marijuana or this bacteria, either they change the brain function due to directly enter into the brain, or due to they are in the system, blood circulation, and then go to the brain through spinal fluid. That's also possible.
So there's another phenomenon happening in the United States with so many people having digestive problems. Over 80% of people claim to have gut health issues at some point in their lives, many of them chronic. And we now know there's a phenomenon where we have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It's a combination of the pH in the gut rising, becoming more alkaline, and people consuming way too many probiotics and fermented foods. In the United States, if this much is good, this much is better. That's what we believe. Oh, if that's good, I'm going to eat it.
That's always the case.
And so I did this for a show a couple of years ago. I haven't gone back and checked it. But a couple of years ago, I was doing a show on small intestinal bacterial overgrowth with a doctor named Dr. Satish Rao. He was groundbreaking. He said, to truly determine if you have SIBO, you must do a D-lactic acid test, because D-lactic acid is made only in the gut through the lactobacillus forms of microbes. And we also talked about how these microbes can really make us sick. I mean, they can destroy the lining of our intestines. They can cause rheumatoid arthritis and all this other stuff. So my question to you is it possible that these microbes, once they are here, go down and they take up residency in the gut as well?
That's a great question. So we evaluate when we oral infect with mice, and we test the gut microbiome. It did not go to there, only oral. Because, if you look at human microbiome, and this bacterium is specifically in the oral, not in the gut.
Do you think that's because it can't make it through the hostile acid levels of the gut? And that, because we have people that are there. One of the things that we learned about SIBO is that one of the things you must do is return the pH of the gut down to 1 or near 1, which is highly acidic. And then a lot of this small intestinal bacterial overgrowth gets that acid, and it dies off immediately. Do you think it's because it's a combination that some people, their gut is becoming more alkaline, that or it's staying acidic enough to keep those microbes from implanting somewhere else?
I think, if you look at gut microbiome, is definitely a specific community. So which they can go through the low pH, through the stomach, and colonize in the gut. I think, it have to have some special ability to localize out there. But the details, I don't know the details of gut microbiome.
What about using an antiseptic mouthwash? I don't like to use mouthwash. What's that?
Yeah, after we have this funding, I use that every day, 3 times per day. Yeah, I definitely, the more research we are doing, the more oral health concern I have. So I do that. Not only do toothbrushing, also, oral.
Floss, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's also dentists that recommend the oil washers. So
I'm worried about the oral mouthwashes because some of them have alcohol, many of them have fluoride. I'm sorry, many of them have fluoride, and I'm concerned that they can actually do more damage than good. What kind of a mouthwash would be acceptable that's not so harsh that it's going to, because you swallow mouthwash. We don't want to damage anything in the gut either. So a lot of people who mouthwash every day, they start to have stomach problems because these chemicals that they use, especially if they use there's a chemical that they use that was in hand wash and they put it in mouthwash. I can't remember the name right now. If anybody remembers, because I joked about it because it used to be in a cereal, Fruit Loops. I have no idea why they would put an antimicrobial in Fruit Loops. But with that being said, what mouthwash would be good to help nourish the good microbes and kill the bad microbes? All right.
Let me show you mine. So this one is recommended by a dentist, Dr. Novens from our dental school, and he is doing oral microbiome as well. He is a surgeon, dentist surgeon. So he recommends this oil washer. You know, that's why I use this. He told me there's a very different result of different cleaning.
Mouthwashes. So when you use that, have you swabbed and checked to see the population of the microbes? I would love to see that.
No, I didn't do that. But that's
that would be good.
Then you have to control every other things the same, just except this mouth washer,
Right.
which we can do that. Yeah.
Right. Boy, I want to remember the name of that antiseptic, antimicrobial. It'll come to me. Wait, let me check and see if anybody commented. No, nobody. So what's the next step for your research? I mean, I know we have 6 or 7 things that you could do. But what's on the schedule for the next step for this research?
So I already, after talking to you, I already have much more next steps. So, right.
Too bad I don't have the funding too. I have some good ideas, but I don't have the funding.
Oh, I hope I have more funding to do the study. It's always due to the money issues. So
well, this is really important, and the reason it's important is because more and more people are using cannabis today, both oral edibles and smoking, and I think that we have to be aware of the potential. I personally, I mentioned on this show one day that I wasn't using edibles anymore because it was hurting my memory. And both a friend and his wife were watching the show, and he still smokes weed. And she called him out in the posts here. She said, "See," and he goes, "I don't have a problem. You're the one with the memory." They got into an argument about it. I think that people are seeing more and more memory issues and just chalking it up to aging. But I don't think it's aging. I think it's the use of cannabis. I really do.
So I do believe if even cannabis smoker, if they are doing good oral hygienist, they may be fine. That's what I think, because I definitely remember in like some developing country in a very poor area, people do not do toothbrushing. There are much higher rate of dementia.
Yeah.
And the people, they are recommended to decrease the dementia only by toothbrushing.
Yeah. Taking care of your teeth is very, very important. I want to take our last commercial break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the interview. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. And I just want to put this up real quick. It's not chlorhexidine. That's not it. It's not. I know what chlorhexidine is, horrible too. But there's another one that I will find it while I'm in the break, and I will talk about it when we come back. So stay tuned. Stay with me. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Don't forget, later in the show, if you have chronic pain, I may have a solution for you. We'll be right back. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
Hey guys, it's time to change your f***ing underwear, and it's time to change to Sheath. Sheath's underwear's revolutionary designs allows your man parts to hang the way they would naturally hang if you were not wearing underwear. And this improves the blood flow throughout the day to the twigs and berries. If you've never experienced wearing a pair of Sheath underwear, boy, is there an exciting experience waiting for you. Grab a pen and write this down. Go to shrnetwork.biz/sheath. That's SHEATH. And use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off your first pair. And get this, if you're not completely satisfied, send them back for a full refund. That's shrnetwork.biz/sheath.
I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep. And that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor that allows you to get your best night's sleep. And that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website. Hey, this is Carl Lenore. I am the inventor of GunLeash. Over 500,000 handguns are lost in the United States every year. If you carry a gun like I do, you are 300 times more likely to lose your gun. And 15% of those guns will end up in criminals' hands and used in the commission of a crime. GunLeash solves that problem. GunLeash is a patented, no-tracking proximity device the size of a postage stamp. It will alert you as soon as your gun is outside of your range, so you can never leave your gun behind. To learn more and to be notified when GunLeash is available at the end of January, go to gunleash.com and get on our mailing list. GunLeash. Never lose your gun, never leave your gun. Millions of people know that shrewd food is the smartest way to snack. Ever get that craving for crunchy snacks but don't want to eat all those empty carbs? Well, instead of puffed corn or wheat like most snacks, Shrewd Food puffs protein powder. This gives these crazy efficient macros. 2 grams of carbs, 14 grams of protein. That's as high as 67% protein and with only 90 calories. So knock out the carbs, but keep the amazing flavor and crunch you're looking for. Shrewd Food is now available at Walmart and Sprouts. Or go to shrnetwork.biz/shrewd food and use the code SHR25 for 25% off your order.
Move over, superheroes. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Test. It's working. I'm so excited. Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Jiang. We're talking about the effects of cannabis, smoking weed on the oral microbiome that leads to memory issues. It's starting in your mouth. And it's really an interesting discussion because, like I said, going into the break, more and more people are using cannabis and they're paying attention to studies that only offer them some sort of confirmation bias that they can keep smoking it. There is research out there on raw cannabis leaves being eaten in 60 and 70-year-olds where it marginally improved their memory. But it wasn't decarboxylated, it wasn't heated, it wasn't smoked, it was chewed and eaten, probably through evolution, how we really came in contact with these cannabinoids. Triclosan is the antimicrobial that I couldn't think of, that is in many mouthwashes. That is not good. It's a weak antibiotic, so they call it an antimicrobial. But if you use it day in and day out, you'll see changes in your gut real fast. And there's probably some good mouthwashes out there that are natural. And that Listerine that you put up is probably a decent one too. I just think that people have to be careful how often. Maybe use it after you smoke weed. and just use it that way. What do you think, Dr. Jiang?
Don't know. That's possible.
Yeah. So, what do you want people to take away from this research?
So I think oral health is very important, especially when you smoke cannabis long term. And the other things right now, we are evaluating this bacterium, whether it can predict, develop to Alzheimer's disease. So we are doing that study. Because if this is true, then it's important to know a predictor long term back. It's good for people to prevent Alzheimer's disease. I cannot hear you.
Test. There we go. Okay. So the other thing is that we have a lot of new agents in the market, right? We have Delta 8, we have Delta 9, we have Delta 10, and most of those are edible. Will you look into these and see if I know you're going to look into edibles to see if it has the same effect on the oral microbiome, but can you look into these other forms? Because they're just as, I would say Delta 8 is probably just as popular as Delta 9 or cannabis right now.
Don't know. We can study on that. That's really the question, which components change the microbiome. That's
the mouth. Yeah. I mean, this is exciting work, and I'm sure that you could find a lot of people to allow you to check their oral microbiome that are already using Delta 8 and Delta 9, because even states that don't have legal cannabis use, even medical marijuana, they all sell Delta 8 and Delta 9 or edibles in stores, CBD stores. And I'm sure you can find a good population of people to check their mouths to see if they are seeing these changes from these two variants of THC. That would be fascinating.
Okay. I thought people right now focus on CBD effects a lot in the research field. But, to know the THC, what type of THC is also important.
Yeah, because the Delta 9 THC coming from hemp is the same Delta 9 that's in cannabis.
Okay.
It's just not coming from cannabis. It's just it's being isolated from a different plant.
Okay.
So a lot of good stuff, huh? You're going to have to come back and listen to the replay of the show so you can make notes on everything you want to do now.
Sure.
All right, we're going to let you go now because we have another interview to do. Let's see here. Sean Watson said this has been a very interesting discussion. Craig Hollander did a whole list of harmful ingredients in mouthwash, but there's good mouthwashes out there. There really are. So you just have to shop around. And I would say, as a precaution until all the research comes out, get a really healthy, like a good mouthwash that doesn't have sodium lauryl sulfate in it or fluoride, definitely no triclosan, and gargle with it after you smoke weed with your friends. I mean, that seems to me to be a sensible step in the right direction. Dr. Jiang, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
We're going to take one quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Stuart Fetzer, and we're going to talk about nanotechnology. What is nanotechnology? I hear a lot of people using that term. I would like to know more about what it is, but also I'm going to share my experience with a product that I really, really, really thought was BS. In fact, I thought it was BS so strongly that I resisted even trying it. I thought, oh, what's this thing going to do for me? Well, it did something. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Don't go away.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
Remember those rectangular toasted pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today.
Hey guys, it's time to change your underwear, and it's time to change to Sheath. Sheath's underwear's revolutionary designs allows your man parts to hang the way they would naturally hang if you were not wearing underwear. And this improves the blood flow throughout the day to the twigs and berries. If you've never experienced wearing a pair of Sheath underwear, boy, is there an exciting experience waiting for you. Grab a pen and write this down. Go to shrnetwork.biz/sheath. That's SHEATH. And use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 20% off your first pair. And get this, if you're not completely satisfied, send them back for a full refund. That's shrnetwork.biz/sheath.
Merrick Health is a premium telehealth platform that connects customers with partnered providers from the comfort of your home. Merrick provides concierge service with your very own patient care provider as your health advocate. You'll go over all your needs and goals, from improving sexual function, hair loss prevention, increased muscle, fat loss, and overall improved performance. Prescribed treatment options can be ordered and shipped directly to you if you meet the requirements, all from the comfort of your home. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Merrick Health. That's MAREKHEALTH, and order your comprehensives and get 10% off with code SHR. Don't forget to add the lab analysis to have results reviewed with potential over-the-counter supplements or treatment recommendations. That's shrnetwork.biz/Merrick Health and use code SHR at checkout, or order your own desired labs with code SHR and get 10% off your first lab order.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Hey, this is Carl Lenore, host of the longest-running health, fitness, and anti-aging podcast in the world, Superhuman Radio. For 17 years, I've heard promises of devices and gadgets that could eliminate chronic pain. I live with chronic pain. For two decades, I was a powerlifter, and my lumbar spine shows all the signs of abuse. And so I live with sciatic nerve pain. It varies from just annoying to debilitating. The other thing is I love to ride my motorcycle. I ride it every day if I can. And obviously my motorcycle doesn't treat my lumbar spine good. I got the Kylo patch, and I promised to give it a try, but I got to be honest with you, I thought it was bullshit. But I was instructed, find the right spot over the pain, you'll feel the pain start to go away, leave it there, and go about your business. And I did that. That day, I got on my motorcycle, and I rode for about 3 hours. It was Saturday. Well, I came home that day, got off my bike, and had no back pain. That's rare. In fact, it's impossible. And I spent the rest of the day wearing the Kylo patch, and I did not experience any sciatic nerve pain, which is ridiculous because after riding for 3 hours in a row, I always get pain in my back. So I gave it a try the next day. I got up in the morning. I had some sciatic nerve pain. I put it over the area where the pain was emanating from, right above my right glute muscle. And in seconds, the pain was gone. I thought, this can't be. How can this be? And I think that's what most people think when they see Kylo. They think, how could that be? Well, the technology is legit. And I can tell you right now, if you give Kylo a try, you'll find you don't have to live with chronic pain. Check it out. Check it out. I'm joined by Stuart Fetzer. How you doing, Stuart?
Great, Carl. Nice to meet you.
And you are the founder of Kylo, right?
I'm the founder of Pain Relief Technologies, and we sell the Kylo pain patch.
Okay. So clear something up for me. I've never understood what the term nanotechnology really means.
Sure. My understanding of nanotechnology is that it involves components, molecules that are of size smaller than, I guess, 1/1000th of a meter.
Mm-hmm.
So nano is essentially the prefix when describing length that indicates something 1/1000th of a meter in length. So, I mean, really tiny.
Okay, so a nanometer we're talking about. So any technology, any molecule, anything that is working on the nanometer size scale, correct?
Right.
Okay, so my audience knows I live with chronic pain. I complain about it often. In fact, I thought I was getting crippled at one point in my life.
Oh, man.
And I thought for sure a wheelchair was in my future. Luckily, I've been able to derail that progression, but the pain is still with me. And I really didn't believe Kylo was going to do anything for me because I'm probably like most of your customers. You look at I'm wearing it now. I don't want to get up and show my butt to everybody because it's literally like way down my glute muscle. And plus, since I stopped squatting, I really don't have a cute ass anymore. But I put it on as instructed. And it took a little while to find the right place. I tried it vertically. I tried it horizontally. I moved it around. And then I literally placed it somewhere. And I thought to myself, is the pain going away? And that's when I got on the bike and went riding. So how is it working? What is it about that patch? It's a kind of semi-rigid plastic.
Yeah. Do you mind if I show it? I've got one.
Please. I actually have an image of it too, but go ahead. Yeah.
So this is it. And you can see how flexible it is, how thin it is. That's all it is there.
So obviously the material besides the plastic, it looks like there's almost like some gold flaking that's set up in a certain array. That has something to do with the way it works, right?
It certainly does. First, I want to say, Carl, your experience is so similar to my personal experience. Mm-hmm. It's really very interesting. So when I was first introduced to the technology, and I should clarify, I'm certainly not the brains behind the invention of what we call the slurry technology. Our company licenses it and resells it. But I was very confident in the people who introduced the technology to me. And they said, please try this out, see if it works for you. And I had really severe sciatic pain. And just like you, my first few attempts at use were useless. I couldn't figure out where to place it or how to use it. And it took me almost a week to discover the right placement. And the only reason why I tried for so long is because I trusted the people that gave it to me. But once I did find the right place, like you, it was instant. The pain went away instantly, and I kept it in that place and wore it for quite a while and have not suffered the same sciatic pain since. Now, sorry for this aside. I can explain now the technology and how we feel it works.
Yeah, go ahead. Explain the technology, and then I've got some questions.
Okay. So it's helpful to go back to the history of how this technology was created to understand it better. And it was initially created as an antenna. And the antenna was used by the government in several different functions very successfully as a long-range, low-power antenna solution. And one of the inventors of the product got in a motorcycle accident, broke 6 of his ribs, and was lying in his hospital bed, totally upset that he couldn't help work on the antenna project, when he ended up setting the antenna patch, down on his chest to reach for something on the table next to him, and all of the pain in his chest from the broken ribs went away. And he realized, wow, there's something here. We need to figure it out. That launched their effort to create pain relief products. And that's where I was introduced to them. And I now resell the technology for them through pain relief technologies.
Now, there are literally millions of people around the world that use this technology to relieve pain right now. This is not a new product. It's just a new product to us.
Right. So I would say that there are millions of people that use this technology because we've been able to distribute this technology to them. There are only 3 companies really that distribute this specific technology. There are very few licenses out there. The technology is really unique too, because it's essentially very simple. It's a sheet of capacitors. So when I hold up this Kylo pain patch, and you see, like you were saying, the pattern and what we call the golden slurry in it. What is inside that slurry is billions of capacitors. Capacitors, for those who know electronics, are essentially an electrical component that holds a charge. And they're made of conducting materials and semiconducting materials in a sandwich shape. So 2 conducting materials sandwich a semiconducting material in between. And that semiconducting material holds a charge. And in computers, it's part of your memory for your computing devices. Well, this patch has billions of capacitors. And the way that those capacitors get charged and discharged is essentially the function of the patch, because that charge, or its ability to absorb charge, is the way it interacts with the axons in our nervous system. So it influences the behavior of the ions that are entering and exiting the ports in the axons of our nervous system. Now, I should clarify, we've done as many tests as we're capable of, and we're still trying to understand what we call the mechanism of action, what actually is happening, and that is our closest theorization of what is happening.
Well, and so I started the early years of my career in land mobile radio, mobile telephone, and paging, and then finally cellular.
Okay.
So I can understand exactly what's happening here.
Great.
Capacitors are rated in farads, picofarads, nanofarads, and so on, which is the rate in which they can charge and discharge and the rapidness of that charge and discharge cycle. And it sounds to me, and the word antenna is taken from attenuate. So the antenna can pick up energy around it. And the size of the antenna, the size of that particle, dictates the size of the wavelength that it can absorb. And it's in quarters. You don't have to go the whole. A particular VHF wavelength could be like 12 feet long, from peak to valley.
Yeah.
Well, all you need is a quarter wavelength or smaller. It comes down in quarters, and then it harmonizes with the frequency that it's looking for. That harmonization charges the capacitor, and the capacitor discharges and charges again rapidly. So you have all of these little capacitors, as you say, millions of them, charging and discharging the energy that they're picking up from the environment, and that's got to disrupt the nerve where the pain is, because they sell these things, you see Shaq wearing it. It's got like the battery in it, and you put it on your back, or you put it on your lower leg. Yeah, you put it on your lower leg. This is brilliant. So you're really using ambient energy that's around us. We live in a soup of frequencies, of radio frequencies, and it's gathering those and targeting them directly into the flesh that it's worn on.
We thought that might be the case, but we actually think that the more ambient energy there is, the less capable this patch is at functioning. What we believe is happening is that the charge that is present in the ions in the axons of the nervous system, they create what's called a transmission potential.
Sure.
And when those ions accumulate enough to create this micro electron voltage, that is what is being sensed by the capacitors.
Right. So it's really getting the energy from the body and then sending it back. but
Exactly.
it's pulsing it in such a way that it disrupts the transmission of nerve
What we
of
found,
pain.
very interestingly, is that people who are, say, at work, surrounded by a lot of monitors or a lot of computing power, there is enough ambient energy created by those devices that they will wear the patch at home and it will work very well. Then they'll go to work and they'll say, I don't know why, but every time I show up to work, the patch stops working. And it's because the patch gets overwhelmed by the ambient energy from their workplace.
Well, with that being the case, would it be wise for someone to put some sort of dielectric cover on the Kalo patch so that it only picks up directional from the body and sends it back?
Yeah, I imagine that would be a functional solution. We've never tested it, but it certainly makes sense based on our theories.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Well, the bottom line is this, right? So we're pontificating here about technology and wavelengths and frequencies and all that stuff. But the reality is, all that stuff aside, it works. If you are somebody who suffers from chronic pain, whether it be sciatic pain, which is a huge problem for men and women in this country, because we sit all day long. Here we are.
It's the new smoking.
And smoking weed with the previous guest. And if you're just sitting around and you notice that after you sit for hours, you get up and you have this sensation, sciatic pain, if you don't know it, it starts above the glutes, because it comes out, the nerve branches come out between L4 and L5 and goes down the glute, and it goes past the hamstrings, and then it comes around the front by the shins and the instep. If you notice that you have pain in one leg, both legs, that fits that, starts in the lower back, comes down the butt, you feel it radiating near the hips, goes down by the hamstrings, and then crosses over and comes around to the front of the shin and even into the instep of your foot, that's sciatic nerve pain. I predict that this product will work wonderfully for you. Obviously, there's people that are so damaged that, this may not work for them, but you can find out very easily. It's a very easy thing to do. And let's face it, what I learned about living with chronic pain actually makes you rethink everything you're about to do. I remember one day when my pain was the worst, I had to go upstairs for the charger for my laptop. I didn't want to do it. I closed my laptop. I was like, I don't want to go up the stairs right now. Why? Not because I was exhausted, not because I couldn't carry myself up the stairs, but I just didn't want to feel that pain. And that pain saps the neurotransmitters in your brain. It disrupts dopamine production to the point where you're just literally exhausted from the neck up by the end of the day with chronic pain.
Oh, you change your habits, you change your behaviors. I remember specifically sitting in my car because I didn't want to try and get out because it hurt so much.
I've been there.
Yeah, I would just stay for as long as I could so that I wouldn't have to go through the pain of getting out of the car.
Well, let me put something up here for a second, because we have Natalie.
So, if I may, too, I love what you said about the nervous system pathway branching off, going down the glutes, coming around the front in the shins. It's very important when you're using the Kylo patch to understand the pathways of the nervous system, because what we've found is that people will complain about pain in a certain part of their body and attempt to find relief with the Kylo pain patch in that specific location where they're finding pain. But what we've discovered is that, and we use the phrase in between the pain and the brain, because you don't necessarily get the most relief using the Kylo patch by placing it where you have pain. Instead, you place it where there's a problem with your nervous system pathway. And so when you're having problems like sciatica, oftentimes the nerve is being impinged at the point at the spine. And so you end up placing the patch at that point of impingement or somewhere above that along your spine between that point and your brain. That's very, very helpful when finding the right location.
Yeah, right. Because if you're feeling pain in your instep, but it's coming from your sciatic nerve, you have to start up by the spine where the sciatic nerve exits the spine itself.
Yeah.
Another telltale sign is if you get sharp pains in your pinky toes or your big toe, that's sciatic nerve pain. I mean a sharp pain. I don't mean like neuropathy where your feet tingle and they're partially numb. I mean like for no reason at all, your big toe lights up. Wow. Oh man, what the hell is that's sciatic nerve? It originates in the spine, but it's just a certain bunch of the nerve that's being pinched by the spine.
Bundle that's being touched.
And that's the one that's responsible for that toe, really.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. It does work. There's no doubt about it. I want to just put this up real quick because we have a 30% discount code. If you use our branded link, it's shrnetwork.biz/go-kilo. I only want Kilo. I'm sorry. I kept getting. I'm from Brooklyn. I pronounce words very, very different than the normal people. Go Kilo, right? shrnetwork.biz/go-kilo, and you'll save 30% off. Now, what kind of do you offer any type of satisfaction guarantee or anything like that with it?
We do, because we feel like we are so weird and strange, and people are just like you, and they say, "Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't think that's going to work." We want to give people the confidence that they can try it out. And then within 90 days, if they're not satisfied, send it back. We'll give you your money back. The last thing we want to do is have people dissatisfied with their experience and feel like they got ripped off. We like to use the term, we are painless.
The whole process. Yeah,
I like the whole process. It's painless. If you don't get relieved, then let us give you your money back.
Yeah, that's good. Now you have to understand, a lot of people may look at this and go, that's kind of expensive for a piece of plastic, but what you're paying for is technology. Like, look at a cell phone. Who would have ever thought that you would pay $1,500 for this little thing here? Really? I mean, you'd think you'd get something much more substantial, but what it does, it's the technology. Yeah, what it does is the technology. And to live without pain, I know so many people that take NSAIDs every single day. Yeah. They turn to questionable drugs every single day that literally, like, I know chronic pain sucks, but like being stoned all the time sucks even more. You know, like if that's your only alternative to feel normal, but then all you do is sit in a chair, why do you care that you have chronic pain? You're not doing anything anyway. It's just crazy.
You know, one of the negative options too is surgery. And I can't tell you how many people have said, I had surgery and it helped for about a month and now it's worse, or it didn't go back. And I paid $8,000 for the surgery, or, you know, whatever the cost was. One of the things we like to do when people mention the cost is we say, well, if you consider how much you pay in a year on NSAIDs, even just, you know, Advil and Tylenol, there's a chance you'll spend $119 in a year on those. Well, the Kilo will last you a year and more, and it won't give you any side effects. So we feel like that's a pretty good price. But it's worth mentioning too that we've just launched another product for those people that are more price sensitive. And instead of lasting a year or more, it only lasts a month, but it gives people a chance to try the technology without risking so much money. So I'll just hold them up side by side. Here's the original. Mm-hmm. And then this is the new product. And this is called the Kilo Flex. It only lasts about a month. And this one lasts for a year or more. This one costs $49 or $24 a month if you get a subscription to replace it. And this one, of course, retails at $119. We give lots of discounts on this, though, like the 30% that your customers will see. But what we're trying to do with pricing and availability is we have a company goal, which is specifically to relieve suffering and enable joy. And we want to do that for as many people as possible. And so we do everything we can to give people an opportunity to buy them and find them and use them.
So right now, someone in my audience is going, how does it wear out?
Yeah. Well, it wears out because we're humans. We have oils and salts on our skin. They get dirty, they get bent, they'll get corroded. And while the original does have a protective PVC layer on it, that will wear out over time. This one doesn't have the protective layer on it, and it's made of a less durable material that will wear out much more quickly. It's a lot
Well,
cheaper.
what about I mean, capacitors only have so much ability to charge and discharge. These are solid state capacitors, basically, like it's found on a chip capacitor on a PC board. They wear out. Do the capacitors, after a while, fail to be able to charge and recharge as quickly as we want them to?
We anticipate that they do, but we've never experienced that being the failure mode before
The material.
the substrate material wears out first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that living with chronic pain sucks, and I know that we do anything we can. I've never thought about surgery because anytime you have surgery on your back, it's just going to get worse. And that's because when they start fusing vertebrae, the other two vertebrae, north and south of the ones they fuse, have to take on that work, and then they fail. And then it just eventually you have your whole spine fused, and you're like a popsicle. That's it.
Yeah.
So back surgery, avoid it at every cost that you can. But yeah, to live without pain, I mean, hell, $24 a month is the subscription.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things that we need to be cautious about when we talk about this technology, because anything medical related, of course, we don't want to mislead anybody.
Right.
But what we've found is that people who use it regularly find that they don't have to use it as much as they did after a while. And that's one of the reasons. So that specific experience of many of our customers has led us to believe that we're not necessarily disrupting signals in the axons of the nervous system as much as we are cleaning them up or clearing them or assisting them in proper delivery. Because we believe the body is a magical tool, right? It's an amazing machine, and it can function well if it's treated well. And oftentimes when someone is injured, the signal of pain is a repeater signal. And so we think that the Kylo oftentimes will clear up that repeater signal and assist in people not having pain anymore.
Well, we know that the brain, if you have the same pain often enough, it imprints the brain. We know that from people who've had amputations and they still feel the pain in the leg that's removed. So that's happening in the brain.
Yeah.
The other thing we know is, as it relates to the spine, there's actually something called spine walking in people who have been in horrible car accidents, and a portion of their spine has the nerves have been severed, but yet they can move their feet clumsily to a certain degree. And you think, well, how can they even move their feet if there's no innervation? We see this in dogs that are hit by cars. They kind of walk with this little wobble in their butt, but meanwhile, there's nothing innervating those muscles. They call it spine walking. So the nervous system is so complex. It's almost like, I like the fact that you use the word repeater, because we use repeaters in the radio communications business to pick up a signal and send it north, and pick up a signal and send it on, and bing, 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 it passes it all the way to the central station that you're trying to get it to. Well, theoretically, if you don't have an alarm on number one, but for some reason, number four sends a signal, the brain thinks, oh, you still have an alarm, even though you don't. The spine is fascinating and the brain is fascinating. There's a lot of people that feel that because of the way pain works, it originates in the brain. You don't feel the pain per se in the limb. The brain tells you have the pain there because it wants to splint the arm from moving because it thinks it's in trouble. So
that it will assist. Yeah.
Fascinating stuff when you start talking about pain and the spine and the brain. It really is.
And the more we dig into trying to understand the real mechanism of action for this, the more we realize how little knowledge there is on many of the functions of the nervous system and the body. We've done some clinical trials just so that we can, while we're having a hard time finding the exact mechanism of action, we are able to get a lot of anecdotal evidence through trial of who it helps, why it helps, what circumstances it helps with. And we've got some really cool clinical trial results that we like to share with our customers to help build their confidence that, that we're trying to be as open book and science-based as we can in our discovery of this technology.
Well, and $119 plus any promotion that's going on, right? You said it's $119, right?
That's right. That's the retail price.
That's super cheap. I mean, that's so cheap. And when you think about it, if you're not satisfied, you could send it back. So it's almost like let me put a $119 deposit on this and let me try it. And if it doesn't work, I'll come for my money back. But if it does work, I'll keep it. Like if you look at it that way, what do you have to lose except pain?
Yeah.
I mean, really, right?
It's true. That's what we hope people feel is, what do we have to lose except pain for this attempt? And I know people in pain and they have tried so many things.
So sad. I know.
Yeah.
I thank God I'm not
try this thing.
I thank God that I'm not as in bad of pain as my spine looks.
Oh,
so now I have Kylo. I want to pronounce it right. I keep wanting to say Kalo. I'm sorry. Like Kalo,
we created for ourselves.
Yeah, but I'm so happy that I have this thing, because there are days where my sciatic nerve pain is tolerable, where it's not real bad and I barely feel it. But then there's days I slept the wrong way. I slept on my side. I rode the motorcycle a lot, and it's just unbearable.
Yeah.
Unbearable. So I'm very happy that you came out with this product. I want to thank you for it. I want to tell the audience again, we have a trackable code, because we like to see if our audience is taking up these things. shrnetwork.biz/go Kylo. It's GOKAILO. Use the code SHR30 for 30% off.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost half price. I mean, when you think about it, 30%, 50%. I mean, it's a great discount.
Oh, that's right.
Check it out, use it. And I also want to hear from people in my audience that use it. I want to hear your stories. Maybe we'll have you on the show to tell your story, right? Because people are going to say, oh, Carl, you have a vested interest. He's a sponsor. Anybody who's been listening to the show for 17 years knows I don't promote anything that doesn't work, because it's my reputation. I couldn't be here for 17 years if
I'm so glad for that.
Yeah, if I promoted crap. It's just not me.
Yeah, you don't last long if you do that.
Yeah. All right, look, I want to thank you for being here, Stuart. I want to thank you for having Kylo as a sponsor, because I have a hard time pushing products or finding products that I can really get behind, and I can really get behind Kylo. And I think that my audience will be very satisfied when they get one and they use it. And that's it. Thank you for being here today and taking time out of your day.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure meeting you. I really appreciate this.
Take care.
You too.
All right, that's it for today. I am actually off Thursday and Friday this week. Today is Wednesday, right? I lose track of the days. Doing this for so long, it's hard to keep track. I'm off Thursday and Friday because I'm going to Tennessee to see Andrea Bocelli, and I'm very excited about that. I'm going to sit up front so he sees me. That's a joke, if anybody knows who Andrea Bocelli is, because he's blind. But we will be back Monday. We have a great show Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. So don't miss it. Don't forget, share the show. Always share the show, because you never know whose life you can change. One person. You may share the show today, and one person will be helped by that show. And I have it on good authority from the Pope himself that you'll go to heaven if you share this show. So there you go. We'll see you Monday. Yeah. Thomas Whittingham he loves Andrea. Yeah, he's great. How can you not like him? All right, we'll see you Monday. Take care, and thank you for being here today.